Hi, this is Anthony Garland, and in this video tutorial, we'll show how to get started with SolidWorks. So first, this is assuming that you have SolidWorks 2016 installed on your laptop. So I'm going to double click on the SolidWorks icon, or if I go to my start menu, I could just search for SolidWorks, and there it would be as well. So I'm going to double click on it. Once you start SolidWorks, if it's your very first time, it might ask you about a license agreement, and if that's the case, just click accept. It might also ask you if you want to have the quick tips turned on, and the answer is no. It also might ask what units you would like to use, and for this class you can select IPS. So that'll be the inches or the English unit system. So when SolidWorks starts, it should look something like this. And to get started, uh, we're going to go to File and New. Before we get too far though, you'll notice that this looks similar to other Microsoft Windows applications. So I have like a file menu, tools, help. I have this, I can make a new file by clicking right here. I can open an existing file. And this is not much different than other applications that hopefully you're already familiar with. So I'm going to click on File and go to New. Within SolidWorks, there's three types of files that we can make. We can make parts. So, for example, I was making a engine, like each uh, piston shaft is a part, or each individual screw is a part. Once I stick all of those parts together, that the way that those parts interact with each other, that's an assembly. And finally, I have a drawing file. And a drawing is once we have our 3D model as a part or assembly, and I want to make a 2D representation that I could send to someone else easily. This would be kind of like a blueprint. Then I would make a drawing file. Um, so for the first few classes, we're going to stick with part files and teach you guys how to make uh, parts using SolidWorks. So I'm going to select part and click OK. And it should look something like this. So first what we're going to do is look at some of the options within SolidWorks. And the very first one that we're going to do is if I go to Tools and down to Options, then it's going to bring up a lot of different options of things that we can change within SolidWorks. Now there's two kinds of options. The first is overall options that we can change within SolidWorks for every time that we run it, and then also options for this specific document. So within the document properties, so that'd be on the second tab, I'm going to change the standard, the overall drafting standard, to the ANSI. That's an American standard, whereas ISO, which might be what your default is an international standard about how you should actually make 2D drawings, and like what size the arrow should be, how long the line should be, other really particular details about stuff like that. We're going to keep it on the ANSI because we're in the United States. The next really important thing is the units. So within SolidWorks, you can pick what unit system you want to be the default. And you can see there's 4 unit systems possible. There's the metric, which would be MKS. There's also CGS, MMGS, and then IPS. And you can see like what each one is. We're gonna change it to IPS for now. So that'll be inches, pounds, and seconds as the default units. And then I'm gonna click OK. Next, we can configure SolidWorks in many different ways. The first is we can look at this command manager up here. So this command manager allows us to quickly access many of the commands that are commonly used within SolidWorks. You can see it has a lot of different tabs. And We can change the tabs, like which tabs are available. If I do a right click on a tab and I can turn one off, make it so it's not visible anymore. Also, I can configure what's actually on the what's in the command manager. If I do a right click anywhere in this blank space and go to customize, this will allow me to add or remove things from my command manager. Also, if I want, I can drag and drop additional commands into my command manager. So a common command that we're going to use a lot is actually it's called the normal to command, which is going to change my view so that it's normal to the my reference. The way I'm looking at it, the face will be pointing towards me. So to turn that on or make that command easily available, I'm going to go to the commands tab. Then in the categories, I'm going to go to standard views. Next, I'm going to find this button right here, this normal to. I'm just going to drag it into my command manager. Okay, let's click OK, all done. And that's going to place that command here. And the reason why that might be helpful is I'm going to use it quite a bit, so I can access it very quickly now. So just like with other Microsoft applications, might want to be able to get to some other commands quickly. And I can open up specific toolbars. So to get to the toolbars, I'm going to go to View and then Toolbars. And let's say I wanted to see the Mold Tools toolbar, which we're not going to even talk about in this class. But if I did, then I could just say to make it visible, and then here it is off to the side. Now, I don't want it visible, so I'm going to turn it back off by clicking on it again. And we can do similar stuff with with all the other toolbars. This command manager at the top, we can actually drag it somewhere if we want. And for some reason, it's not dragging right now. It's okay. I'll show you guys more about that later. Next, we can get started with a simple sketch. So when we draw something, normally what we do is we make a 2D sketch and then we use that 2D sketch to modify a 3D object. Might sound a little bit abstract, but once I do a demonstration, you'll understand. So I'm going to go to my sketch command manager, sketch tab on the command manager, and click on sketch. So when I draw something, I have to tell it what plane to draw on. For example, like if I'm one drawn on a piece of paper, the plane that I'm going to draw on is the piece of paper. But within 3D, we have to pick where the quote-unquote piece of paper actually is. So I have 3 planes that are already defined, the front, top, and right plane. It doesn't really matter which one I pick in this case, so I'm going to just pick the top plane. Once I click on it, you can see my view rotated so that I'm looking directly down on the top plane. So to get started, I'm just going to draw a simple line. So I'm going to go up to the top here, click on line. Then I'm going to click once on this 2 red arrows. So these 2 red arrows show me where the origin of the part is. So the origin is the 0, 0, 0 coordinate. So I'm going to click here to begin placing my line. And then I'm going to just move it over. And I'm going to just draw a simple box like this. Okay? So I've drawn a simple box. Now I can do a lot of different things with this. The main thing we want to look at right now is how we can change our view. So within SolidWorks, the way you change the orientation of your view is by holding down the scroll button on your mouse and then just moving your mouse around. So you can see that we sketched on a 2D plane, and then I can rotate my view in 3D. And that will rotate how I'm looking at it. Next, I can also go to some of these other views right here. see here's my normal 2 option that we looked at just a minute ago. That's going to change my view so I'm looking directly down on the plane that I'm sketching on. So this is a really good example why you really need to buy a 3-button mouse, whether it's wireless or has just plugs into your USB port on your computer. But having a 3-button mouse will save you lots and lots of time when you're trying to draw something in SolidWorks. Okay, so I can rotate my view. I can also go to my other views. So for example, if I view this from uh, the left plane, then it's just going to look like a line because I'm basically looking at a piece of paper from the side. It's really thin. Okay. So next, we need to add some dimensions to this. You'll notice that if I try dragging this dot, you see how it can change? That means that the size is not fully defined and that there's still ambiguity about what size this actually is. And you might be thinking, oh, if I click on this line, I can see off to the left, it has some information that says that it's 1.668 inches and its angle is 180. So therefore it's fully defined, or it has information. But that's not the way that SOLIDWORKS functions. Instead, SOLIDWORKS requires us to place what's called smart dimensions. And then it will try to use this smart dimension to solve for any unknown values. And it's really key. If you don't place a smart dimension and you think that just because it has this value over here, then that means it's defined, like the length is 1.68, that's not correct. You always have to use a smart dimension. So I can click on smart dimension and then just click on my line and click again. And then I'm going to define how long I want this line to be. So I'm going to type in 2.5. That's going to make the line 2.5 inches long. Okay. When I'm using a tool, if I want to exit the tool, I can re-click on the tool. So in this example, if I want to exit my smart dimension, I can just do a click on the smart dimension again, and now I'm out of it. Or if I'm using a tool and want to exit out of it, if I hit the escape button, then that'll also exit me out of it. So you're going to find that within SolidWorks, it's really you have to use both hands at the same time. One's going to be either on your keyboard, one's going to be on your mouse. Okay, so place this 2.5 inches. Now I want to see if I can move this dot around. As I try moving it, you see as I move my mouse, I try dragging it like left and right. It's not going anywhere. I can only move it up and down. That's because I placed this dimension, which is defining how big that line is, so there's no ambiguity now. That line has to be 2.5. I can't just drag it somewhere else. So I can't override the smart dimension unless I type in a new value like 3. Okay. So it's important that our sketches don't have ambiguity, that they're very clear. And that's why smart dimension is very important. Right here, where it says underdefined, you'll notice that this is blue, this line right here, whereas all the other ones are black. The blue is telling me that SOLIDWORKS doesn't know some information, that there's still ambiguity in the actual size or location of this line. So I need to add more information. To do that, I'm going to add another smart dimension. So I'm going to click on smart dimension again. Then I'm going to click on this line. Click again to place where I want to view the smart dimension. And then it's going to pop up with the ability for me to insert a value. So let's do 1.5 just to do something interesting. So I have 1.5 inches now. And you can see that the smart dimension tool is still selected because this is still depressed. This button looks like it's still depressed. And also if I just look at my cursor, you can see there's that icon for the smart dimension next to it. So I want to exit my smart dimension tool, so I'm just going to hit escape. And there we go. So I'm out of it. Now if I try dragging this dot, it can't go anywhere. And you'll also notice that all the lines are black. And down here at the bottom, it says fully defined. So that means that this sketch now has all the information that it needs so that it's very clear as to the exact size of this rectangle. Okay, so it's really important that we make things fully defined, or sometimes SOLIDWORKS does funny things and it's basically fully defined, but it says it's not officially fully defined. But the key is that we don't want to be able to like drag something around. That's normally a really bad thing. Okay, so we finished the sketch. It's really simple rectangle. Now I want to exit the sketch mode. There's a variety of ways we can do this. One, I can click exit sketch right here. Or if I come over here to the right, I can click exit sketch right here. Okay. And I'll show you another way in the future using the mouse. That's a little bit more advanced. So I'm going to click exit sketch. Now I'm going to turn this sketch into a actual 3D object. So to do that, I'm going to go to features and then click extruded boss base. Then you're going to see that SOLIDWORKS is smart and it's saying you must have wanted to use that sketch 1 because that's the only sketch available. And you want to pull or extrude that shape that you drew into a 3D object. And it's right, that's what we want to do. So there's a variety of ways we can tell it the height of that I want to pull it out or extrude. One way is I can, on this arrow, I can just drag it up to like a specific value. You can see as I drag it that there's a ruler that's appearing. So I can drag it to a certain distance. Like if I want to draw it to the 2 inches, let's say, then I can try to get it close to 2. You'll notice though that I'm having a hard time. So I'm trying to get it at 2.0 exactly. So I can get it at 1.99. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time getting it at 2. So to be more precise, what we can do is tell it the exact value on the left, okay, over here. So I can say go 2 inches, then click OK. There we go. We have a 3D object. Like we just talked about a minute ago, we can rotate our view by holding down the scroll wheel and then moving the mouse around. And now as we go to each view, it's will actually uh, look like a 3D object. Okay, so let's draw something else now. Let's draw a circle on this face. So when we make a sketch, when we're drawing like on a 2D piece of paper, we have to tell it what plane we're going to draw on, like we talked about before. Now that I have a 3D object, I can use the faces of the object as drawing locations or sketching locations. So I'm going to click on this face, and then I'm going to, in the little menu that pops up, I can click on sketch. Or if I go to sketch up here, while I have this face selected, that'll also let me uh, begin a sketch on this face. The third way to do it is if I just click on sketch, then it's going to pop up with this message on the left where it says select a plane, a planar face, or an edge on which to create a sketch for the entity, or an existing sketch to add the entity to that sketch. Basically, it's saying pick a plane to draw on, like pick a piece of paper that we want to draw. So I'm going to pick this one. Just click on it. Next, when we draw stuff, it's difficult for our minds to think about how things will look from a different angle. So that's why when we sketch, we normally want to be viewing it straight down or straight at it. So right now I'm not looking straight at this plane, and I want to change my orientation so I'm looking straight at it. So to do that, I'm going to go to the normal 2, click on normal 2. That's going to rotate my view so I'm looking right at this plane. Okay, so let's do something a little bit different. Let's sketch a circle. Using this circle tool is really simple. You can see that the sketch tab is it's being shown right now. So I can click on circle, then just click somewhere and click again to place a circle. you'll notice that the circle is blue. That means that there's ambiguity about the size of the circle. There's also ambiguity about where the circle is located. I can drag it around, and I can make it bigger or smaller. So we need to fix that. And just like we did last time, we're going to add a smart dimension, actually several smart dimensions. So I'm going to click on smart dimension. Then I'm going to tell it what size circle I want. So just click on the circle, click again. Now if I look at the smart dimension that's popped up, it says D1 at sketch 2. So this means that we're going to define the diameter, and this is sketch number 2. So let's say I want the diameter to be 2 inches. It's pretty big actually. It's okay. And then I'm going to want to place where the center of the circle is. So to do that, I'm going to add another smart dimension. Make sure your smart dimension tool is selected. You can tell something is selected because it looks like it's depressed in these buttons. So I'm going to click on this center dot, and then I'm going to click this edge, anywhere on the edge. Once I do that, it's going to draw a smart dimension between the two. I'm going to click again. Let's say I want this to be 1 inch away from that edge. Then you can see that this is still blue. Like I can still move this around some. So I need to place another smart dimension. So to do that, I'm going to click this dot and tell it how far away it is from this edge. Let's say I want to make it 1 inch away as well. Okay. So I know from experience that this, if we try to make this into a cut, it's not going to work. We'll just do an extrude actually. Okay. So I finished my sketch. You can rotate it by holding on the scroll wheel and moving my mouse around. Now I'm going to exit my sketch. And then I'm going to extrude this circle out using my extrude tool. So I'm going to click on the sketch 2. So I just clicked on it. You can see it's highlighted. Now I'm going to click on extrude. And then I can do what we did last time, where I can just drag it up and down. So let's do it 0.5 or half an inch, 0.5. I'm going to type in 0.5. Right here where it says merge result, like 99% of the time we're going to want that selected. If you don't have that selected, you might run into some funny issues. It's more an advanced option if you don't have it selected. So for like 99% of things we do in this class, we want to have that merge result selected. Okay. Now that I've typed in 0.5, I'm going to click OK. And then we have this extruded rectangle with a circle on top. Okay. So if we look off to the left now, over here, you see there's two things over here. It says boss extrude 1, boss extrude 2. So what that is it's telling me that to make this shape, I had to follow 2 steps. First, it extruded this one, and then it extruded the circle. If I want to go back and modify something, so let's say I want to make this rectangle bigger. What I can do is I click on this little arrow right here. Okay, and you see that when I do that, then it's going to like open up, and you see this sketch number 1. If I click on sketch number 1, then I can go to, I can do a right click or just a left click, it doesn't matter. I can click on edit sketch right here. And then I'm back in sketch mode for this particular sketch. Okay, let me show that again because this is actually really important. One of the advantages of SolidWorks is the parametric CAD, meaning that the geometry is defined by parameters. And so sometimes we want to go back and modify those parameters. In this case, the parameters were the rectangle, basically drawing the rectangle, and the dimensions. So if I want to modify my shape, I can just modify those parameters and it will modify the shape automatically. We'll talk more about that in the future. Okay, so I'm going to do a right, or let me go back one step. I'm going to click on this little arrow right here. Okay, and then it's going to show me the sketch 1, sketch 2. Some of the features that we're going to do in the future are based on more than one sketch. So it's going to show me all the sketches that this particular feature is based off. There's only one for these extrudes. These extrudes are pretty simple. Do a right click on this, go to edit sketch. Now let's say I want to change this. Instead of 3 inches and 1.5, like my boss told me, hey, Anthony, you really need to update that. It's not going to fit in our part. You need to modify that piece so that has it's 3 inches by 2 inches. Okay, so rather than have to like redraw everything, I can just modify this 1.5 and make it a 2. Okay, so to modify it, if I just click on the dimension and type in the value that I want, then it's going to automatically update everything. So now it's 3 by 2. I'm just going to click on exit sketch. There we go. The whole geometry updated based on updating that one dimension. And that's really the strength of a parametric CAD, is that you can modify any of the parameters, like dimensions, stuff like that, and then it will update the geometry automatically. So that's how you update a sketch, and this is really important. Let me show it just one more time, just to make sure everyone's got it. To modify a sketch, I'm going to look at my feature tree. The feature tree is this big panel off to the left. I'm going to click on this little arrow to show me all the sketches that this extrude 2 or extrude 1 is based off. I can do a right click on, let's say, sketch 2, and go to this button right here, edit sketch. And now I'm in sketch mode to modify the sketch. There's some other ways that I can go back and get to this mode, but this is the one that I use the most. And you might find another one that you like to do. That's what you're going to find within SolidWorks, is that there's like 10 different ways to do pretty much everything, which is a strength of SolidWorks, but also when you're first learning it might be a little bit confusing because I might do something different than say your book does, or maybe someone's trying to help you and they might do it in an even different way. Okay, so let's say I want to modify the circle. I'm just going to click on the 2 here, and let's say I want to make it 1.5. You see that it's gotten smaller automatically. Now I'm going to exit my sketch, clicking exit sketch, and now it's smaller. Okay, so next what we're going to do is save this 3D model. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and you're going to want to save this in a meaningful location. So I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop. I don't know if the desktop's a good spot for you. This is just what I'm doing for this example. So SolidWorks, examples. I'm going to call this class demo 1. Okay, and you're going to see that the save as type is going to be a SLDPRT. That stands for SolidWorks part file. Okay, I'm going to save it. And that saving method, hopefully you're familiar with that from other Windows applications. It's pretty standard. You know, if you like save a Word document or something, then it should be something like a similar set of processes. I would recommend for this class and pretty much any class that you're taking that you save all of your files on Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive or Box. It comes in my Box. So these are all file syncing services that let you save stuff to your computer, and then it will also save your computer or send the information to a server somewhere, and it's stored on there. Basically, it lets you automatically back up your files. So if you're not familiar with what Dropbox is, I would highly recommend that you just Google Dropbox. Or actually at Clemson we have access to another service called Box. It's very similar to Dropbox. And then you save all your files there because what you don't want to happen is for you to work really hard on something and then you lose it. Like your computer crashes and it's just gone. So if you do an automatic backup, using an automatic backup service, that could really be helpful like halfway through the semester when you start potentially having computer problems. Okay, so thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please email me and I will try to answer them.